Well, hello, friends. So in this lesson, we're going to download the interface that we're going to use to develop an Android mobile application. It's called Android Studio. Then we're going to do the necessary setup, okay? So Android Studio is completely free. It can be downloaded and used by anyone and everyone. And you know what? Without any further ado, let's just get started to download Android Studio right this very moment. So first, we'll go to our favorite browser, and in the search field, just type in Android Studio Download. Press Enter. Okay, so here you'll see the second result. In my case, Download Android Studio and SDK Tools site. So if you notice, my friends, this site here is developer.android.com. So this site is a particular site that Android developers must follow, okay? So you can follow latest Android developments, updates, documentation required for application development, and everything else they want to talk about. So yeah, we can continue with the download right now. Now, in its current version, as you see, of Android Studio, it's available. And now I do have to mention here that Android Studio is continually updating itself. So the most recent version shooting this video is 4.1.1. So this version may be a little different for you depending upon when you're doing it, but Android Studio's download and installation processes are always the same. So even if you do see a different version here, have no fear, my dear. You can download and install by following the steps that I'm going to explain. Okay? So if your computer's operating system is 64-bit, you can start the download just by clicking the Download Android Studio button right here. Now, I do want to point something out to you. If you don't happen to know your computer's operating system, just find out, like I'll show you here. So just click on the Windows icon in the lower left corner, open up the computer application, and see the window that opens. Select this PC. It's this tab on the left, and right-click with the mouse. Now, when you select the Properties option at the bottom of the window that opens, the window containing the basic properties of the computer will open. All right. So from this window, you can find out your operating system, how many bits it runs at, etc., etc. All right. So let's go back and continue from where we left off. So if your computer's operating system is not Windows, you can click the Download Options tab right here on the left. And when we click on this tab, we can see the download links for Windows 64-bit, Mac 64-bit, and Linux 64-bit. So these are the operating systems. Now, please note that such an option does not appear for 32-bit operating systems because Android Studio does not support 32-bit operating systems since Android Studio 4.0. All right. Now, if your operating system happens to be 32-bit, go ahead and download Android Studio 3.6.3. All right. That's the last version of Android Studio before version 4.0. So for this, you can click the Download Archives link just right in here. And from the window that opens, need to accept the relevant contract terms. So I'll just click on I'll agree. And as you can see, we've already accessed all the versions of Android Studio. So here you can find 3.6.3 and use the download link required for 32-bit operating systems. All right, my friends, we can all work together. All right, so let's go ahead and start the download process. So I'll open up my previous page since the operating system of my computer is Windows 64-bit. I'll download the appropriate Android Studio, and here I'll click on the file with the .exe extension, right? So we need to accept the terms of the contract required to download Android Studio. Then after confirming with this checkbox here, the button that we'll use to download Android Studio becomes active. So that means that when we click on this button, the download process is going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and click. And as you see, the download process has started for me. Of course, this download might take a little longer for you depending upon where you are and your internet speed and bandwidth. So I'm going to just speed up this part. Okay, so now that the download's complete, I'll click the arrow icon to the right of the file that I downloaded and choose the Show in Folder option. So this way we can view the file that we downloaded. So I'll double-click this file. And here, Windows is giving me a warning. Do you really want to run this file? Well, I'm clicking the Run option because, yeah. So the warning might not have appeared for you. It's not necessarily important. So the setup screen opens, and from here, I can just press the Next button. Press the Next button again. All right, so now here is the location where the files will be saved. You can, of course, change this location, or you can remain in default. And I'll just, you know what? In fact, I usually prefer the default file path. That way I don't have to remember anything. Okay, so just press Next and one more time without making any changes. All right, so here it's going to ask if we can create shortcuts for Android Studio. Now, I do want it to create a shortcut. You might not want to create a shortcut, but you do have to confirm with this checkbox here. And again, I will not make any changes. And now we can start the setup process. So by clicking the Install button here, this is going to start the installation process, and I'll press the Install button. And what you're seeing here is the starting of the installation process, okay? So the process is going to take a little time, so I'll speed up this. All right, my friends, installation is now complete, so I'll press the Next button, and it states that the installation process of Android Studio is now complete. If we want Android Studio to be started after the installation process, we will need to check this box. So I uncheck it and start Android Studio together. All right, I press the Finish button, and that completes the necessary setup. So we'll take a short break here, and in the next tutorial, we're going to examine Android Studio's interface. So I'll see you in the next lesson.